So today I want to do a video on steering boxes. It doesn't specifically apply to the Austin Gypsy. This will apply to anything that has a steering box, especially a vehicle that's being used off-road or has been in an accident, something where it's taken a hard impact to the wheel, so doing hardcore off-roading or maybe been struck by another vehicle. I see a lot of videos online, largely with Jeeps, the newer Jeeps, where people are trying to find the cause of what they're calling death wobble, shimmy, the vehicle wandering, the vehicle's steering wheel is off center for no reason. And there's all sorts of cures for it, and I see a lot of fixes for it. There's a lot of things that you can do to brace the frame, or add a bushing to the bottom of the sector shaft down by where the nut that holds the pitman arm on. And those all seem to help, but there's one thing that I think people are missing, because I haven't seen a video on this before. And what kind of prompted me to do this, I was driving down the road yesterday and I saw a newer Jeep, sorry, I don't know the model number, JK or whatever it is, I call it a Jeep Wrangler. Yeah, stock tires on it, stock looking truck, doesn't look like it's been off-roaded much, and it's got the drag link hanging down with the pitman arm on it, and a piece of the sector shaft still hanging in it. The nut on it, the sector shaft is sheared off. So at some point along the way, that vehicle's either been in an accident and the wheel's been struck, or maybe somebody did some crazy off-roading with it and got some good impacts on it. But I want to explain what's going on in there, what in my experience is happening before that sector shaft breaks off. And I've seen lots of videos where people are just driving a Jeep and they're 4x and all of a sudden they have no steering and they have a broken sector shaft, which is very scary to me, and I think it's worth looking at. So I've got an old steering box here off of a Chev van. It's just a good example that I'm just going to show you what I'm talking about, just to explain what I think's happening, what I think people, with these Jeeps or even any vehicle, Ford, Dodge, that you're doing hardcore off-roading with, and if you come home and you find your steering wheel's off center, this is something you should be looking at. So this is my Chevy van steering box that I got kicking around. Just going to use it to demonstrate what I'm talking about with the issue of vehicles that have been used for hard off-roading, especially with large tires, or vehicles that have been in a collision where the wheel's been struck and the sector shaft twists. And I've seen a lot of videos with especially Jeeps, I guess just because they're more popular, and they apparently have a problem with the vehicle wandering, so they get some play in this lower bearing, whether there's a kneel bearing or just a straight solid casting in the Jeep boxes. I'm not sure. It looks like a Saginaw box that's in them, and so it should have a needle bearing down here. But they put a kit on here that goes over the nut, and then it's got a bushing in it, and it braces this bottom of this sector shaft to take out some of the play, which helps with wander. But something I see in videos a lot is people are adjusting this adjustment here for the sector shaft. They're adjusting the clearance on the teeth, and honestly, they really don't know what they're doing, and they shouldn't be messing with it the way they are, but that's just the way it is. There's a lot of those videos out there. But something I see too is the people will have a steering wheel that's off center, and then they get underneath and they adjust that drag link to cure that. And the cause of the wheel being off center and some of the wandering could be due to this issue that I'm talking about here, where the sector shaft twists and it goes out, maybe 5-10 degrees, depending on how bad it was hit. And you can't see it. Like this one here has a dust seal on here, and there's splines there, and it twists on the spline. And I see a lot of vehicles that have been hit, this is in my past experience, and that shaft is actually twisted and you can see cracks in it. So this may be going unnoticed in a lot of cases where your steering wheel's off center or your sector shaft, worst case scenario, breaks off. Don't use a chrome socket for impact like me. Get yourself an impact socket. Get that seal out of the way. So what I'm talking about here now is looking at this spline. If your pitman arm was on and you don't have that seal in the way, you can look in there and you can see those splines will be on a slight angle, and a lot of times you'll see cracks in there, which is really bad. You may have to pull the pitman arm off to see where it's twisted that. But I've changed lots of these sector shafts from vehicles that have been in collision, or replaced the whole box when they've been twisted. And that's my point of this video. Is I think there's a lot of people out there, especially with Jeeps or other 4x4s with large tires, that are using them for heavy duty off-roading with large tires. They could be twisting that shaft, and that could be why they're breaking off, because it's really weird for a sector shaft to just snap off when you're 4x down the road, maybe driving down the road or off-road. Inside here is a rack. This is kind of like a rack and pinion. There's a piston here. When you turn your wheel, this control valve directs pressure to this side or this side, pushes that piston back and forth, which makes your steering turn, helps you turn your wheels. The reason I say not to mess with this adjustment, like I said before, there's a high point on the box at dead center. And this adjustment for the sector shaft, this should only be made with the box out and on a bench while you're setting it up. And it should be done by somebody who really understands how a steering box works. I've seen people doing it just sitting still in their driveway, and they're adjusting this control valve, and they're going, hey, look at the play in here. But really, you're turning a very small torsion bar inside there, and the first little bit of play that you're seeing, all you're doing is twisting that torsion bar. You're not actually moving the worm gear in there. So you can't use that input shaft as a way to measure the play in your box. So yeah, that's what you need to look for. This shaft, it shouldn't just break off for no reason, and that's really troubling to me when I see videos where that's broken off when somebody's 4x, or that vehicle the other day just on the side of the road. That thing could break off at any time. So something you should check. Please check that before you adjust your sector shaft, or even before you put that brace on the bottom of your pitman shaft, sector shaft. Check that spline. And again, inside here, there's a needle bearing. So if you have play in your box, that needle bearing is either worn out or the sector shaft is worn enough that there's play in it. So really, before you put that brace on the bottom, a person should be changing the needle bearing and the sector shaft. And yeah, I think I've blabbed about that enough, so thanks for watching.